All right, now try.
Same message. You cannot start your video because the host has stopped it.
Okay, how did we do this before? So I can click on yours with more.
Let me see if I can screen share. Oh, I guess I can screen share, but I can't show my video.
That
That's
is
odd.
strange.
Let me open my video settings and see if there's anything weird.
Yeah. Not quite sure. Hello, Maria. Welcome. I'm glad to see you joining us. Kim and I are just figuring out why her video will not turn on. So that's what we're doing right now. But thank you for joining us.
Welcome, Maria. That's okay. My Bitmoji is very cheery, so if we can't get it fixed.
All right, let me try this. I see your camera has a red stripe through it. I don't understand that.
Let me leave and come back.
All right, yeah, I'll try that. Hello, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, same result.
It is bad, but let me see.
When you hover over my name and the panelist and you get that more button,
Yeah.
does it give you any options?
It says like make host, change role to attendee.
Yeah.
Let me make you a host and see. Now can you do it? Perfect.
I'm gonna host you back and then maybe it'll stick. All right.
All right, that worked.
I don't know what that was all about.
Very
Well, at
strange.
least we have a fix in case it happens to the other panelists.
Exactly.
So you got a snack?
I did. I got some Doritos.
Yum.
What did you grab?
I had a cup of tea and then my lunch was more lasagna.
Nice. I love lasagna.
Yes. I was watching one of those like pasta granny YouTube videos where there's like a layer of eggplant over top. It looked like a pie, but there was no crust. It was just like eggplant and then pasta was inside. And I was like, that sounds amazing.
Amazing. I see Felipe is joining us. Welcome, Felipe. We are glad you are here. Now Ebony is here.
Okay, Mom, I have to go. Sorry. Okay, love you. Okay, bye.
Ebony, I'm gonna make you host, and your camera can turn on. For some reason, that's the only way Kim and I could figure it out, and then send it back to me. So I'm making you host now.
Hi, Felipe. Thanks for coming today. I think Ebony probably slipped away. Oh, there she is.
There she is. Okay.
Hi.
Hey guys.
Yeah, for some reason,
Welcome.
I had to give Kim hosting rights, and then her camera turned on. So if you wanna send me host back, Ebony, then I can.
Sure.
or send it to her.
And I'm going to run. How do I do that?
If you hover over your name in the panelists section, it should have like a more button that appears.
Oh.
And switch roles.
It just says rename and edit profile picture.
Hover over in the center of the screen.
Oh, I see. Make host. Got it.
Perfect. That is so strange that's doing that today. I have no clue.
It is weird.
Yeah.
I didn't know you guys were going to see me. So I'm like adjusting it's fine, but I'm adjusting myself.
Well, as soon as Kim starts talking, I turn my camera off. So.
Okay, good. I will turn mine off too. But hey, guys.
Hello.
Joining us. Felipe, where are you from? Let's see where people are from. Our ambassadors join us. Ebony, so many people have heard about Newslet Nation and the words getting out there. Are you so excited?
I am. I know everybody can see me doing this like awkward dance. Yeah. I'm so excited. It just thrills me. And we are like constantly making it better and adding things literally every day. So right now there's like a treat every moment. But no, it's my baby. Oh, welcome, Felipe.
That's awesome.
All the way from Mexico. Such a pleasure to have you here.
It must feel really nice to have that all launched this week and the word is getting out. And it's so wonderful. We've been sharing it at all of our meetings. Shaylin, you look like you're really enjoying that Dorito. It's making me want some.
So my kids don't eat them all. Keep no treats in the house.
See, Josh and I like sweet treats and he likes salty treats. And so we're pretty good.
Aren't you a match made in heaven?
Yeah, it really works out.
Well, my kids just will eat anything that they don't have to make themselves. And I'm not really a huge chip person, but for some reason I had a hankering for Doritos today. So
Doritos are worth having a hankering for. I just think they're fantastic. So
agreed. I feel like my go-to snack lately has been plantain chips. I've just been craving
those. Is that the same as banana chips?
I feel like it's a little saltier than straight banana chip. I think the banana chip kind of maintains its like the sweetness of the banana more.
Yeah, they are sweet.
It's a diversion from my normal sweet snacking. Hi, welcome. Thanks for coming today.
this is fantastic. People will be joining shortly. So this is great. I know yesterday And while you and Jordan were onboarding Birmingham, Ebony and I were speaking to Minnesota principals and sharing all those resources. And I'll tell you, we kept on the Zoom after in case they had
Yeah.
questions, and there were people on there at least for
That
like,
was really when it got started. Afterward.
That's great.
they wanted to stick around and chat and talk to everyone, and it was great. It was a good one.
That's an engaged audience there. That's great.
That's right.
Yeah, they were engaged.
It was a great morning, and then we onboarded Birmingham again, Ebony.
Nice.
Yep, and then we jumped into the EdWeb webinar, and that was interesting. With so many people and just everyone's
I
thoughts.
know. I had a few friends who joined.
Did you?
Hmm. And they were. I was listening when I was like on a walk, and so we were like texting about it at the same time.
Funny. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us. We're going to wait just about one more minute before we get started here. We are going to have some NLP ambassadors join us to share how they're using Checkology and all of our resources in their role as librarian and media specialist in their school and district. Joined by my colleagues here, Kim and Ebony, and we will introduce ourselves later, but go ahead and let us know where you're from in the chat and what your role is. And thank you so much for joining us.
My chat is defaulting to the all panelists again, so we'll make sure to do a reminder on that too.
Sure, we talk about that most definitely.
Tucson, Arizona. Welcome.
Welcome. We have Felipe here, who is a professor in Mexico. Casey Boyd is joining us. Casey, I'm going to send a host your way. For some reason, of course, Zoom is glitching. And so I'm going to send host your way so you're able to start your video and then you can just send it back to me.
Okay. There we go. Okay. There we go. All right.
Awesome.
All right. Hi, everybody.
Hi, Casey. I love the background.
Thank you.
Lots of books.
Hey, Casey.
Hi. How's everybody doing today?
Great.
Good.
We're just chatting about snacks.
Snacks and Doritos. Casey, when you have a moment, hover over my picture in the center and those three dots, and then send the host back to me. That way, when Kathy and Sam join, then I can share host with them as well. Thanks.
There we go.
Perfect. All right, so we're going to get started here, and people will be joining us as such is the case for office hours. We want to welcome you to Checkology office hours. We are highlighting our NLP ambassadors who are librarians and media specialists. So I'm going to go ahead and start this. Feel free to type where you're from in the chat and your role in your district, because we are all very interested into knowing who is joining us today. So welcome, and go ahead and enter your name, where you're from, and your role in the chat to get us started here.
Oh, my background doesn't want to cooperate. There we go.
Again, welcome to Checkology Office Hours. Today's agenda, we will of course do this welcome. Kim's going to run through how to register for an account. We're going to introduce our NLP ambassadors, and we have panel questions in collaboration with our special guests. And finally, we'll open it up to you all in the audience to share any questions, thoughts, and resources with our expert librarian media specialist. So again, welcome. I'm Shaylin Farnsworth. I'm the National Director of Educator Outreach and Success. I am joined by my teammates here, Jordan Mays, who you may have connected with on Zendesk, Help Center, email, social media. She is off today, but we definitely want to give a shout out to her. Kim, I'm going to pass it over to you. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kim Bowman, and I'm the User Success Associate at News Literacy Project. And it's my job to make sure you have a really smooth experience on Checkology. So you'll often find me at the other end of the Help Center. So if you have any lingering questions at the end of the day today, at the end of our session today, you can always find me in the Help Center and I'll show you where to reach out to me. Thanks for coming.
Great, thank you. Also joined by another colleague, Ebony Rice. Ebony, go ahead and share a little bit about yourself, and knowing that we are going to spotlight all of our ambassadors later on. So go ahead and share about yourself.
Awesome. Thank you, Shaylin. Hi, everyone. My name is Ebony. I am the Vice President of the Educator Network at NLP, and a part of my job is to run the Ambassador Program, which you will hear more about throughout. So our Ambassador Program is our efforts to mobilize and create a local footprint of news literacy ambassadors across the country. So we have 13 ambassadors in 10 cities. Casey Boyd is one of them, and then we have 12 others who are our resident experts in their respective fields. So today we'll feature some of the librarians who are a part of our ambassador program. We are so excited to be here. I'm thrilled that we're able to really amplify their voices so they can speak to some of their experiences with Checkology, their experiences as librarians and media experts. And it is just my pleasure to join you all today. I'll be kind of listening on the background, but I'm thrilled to be here. And thank you all for joining.
Thank you so much. As I stated earlier, we are going to definitely have questions for our panel experts. We are joined by our NLP ambassadors, librarian media specialist. And I'll tell you, Kim, this really pulls at my heartstrings. You know, my background's in literacy, and now more than ever, we have librarians reaching out because they are truly seen as the hub of their district for information. So we are excited to showcase all of our librarians and media specialists this afternoon. Would love for you to not only share who you are and where you're from in the chat, but also to let us know if you're familiar with News Literacy Project and Checkology specifically. A few logistics while you're doing so. You'll notice in the chat or comment box, this is a place where you can share ideas, say hello, ask questions for someone specific. Go ahead and put that in the chat. There is, if you roll your cursor down over the bottom of your screen, a Q&A box. This will allow you to post questions that we can bring up to our ambassadors. We can offer Ebony or Kim or myself. So these would be questions that you want to share with the larger group. And finally, Kim's going to drop a link for the Help Center. Anything specific that you need more extensive help, or maybe you need a screen share or troubleshoot, you can go ahead and contact Kim at the Help Center, and she will definitely take that conversation offline. One thing I do want to remind you is this: when you're using your chat function or the comment box on the side, make sure it's not defaulted to panelists only. So make sure that clicking that drop-down menu, it says panelists and attendees so everyone can see your chat comments. Again, welcome. Shaylin Farnsworth here. And today we're sharing how librarian and media specialists highlighting our NLP ambassadors use Checkology in all of our News Literacy Project educator resources in their role, supporting not only their students, but their colleagues. If you are unfamiliar with Checkology, it is a browser-based platform that provides all users free access to our lessons. Now we have 14 lessons on Checkology, all around everything from misinformation, disinformation, First Amendment, arguments and evidence, quality journalism, so a variety of free resources that you can use in your classroom with your students. It's geared towards middle school and high school students, but we are constantly updating and providing more resources for the general public, but also for those upper elementary students. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen here. And as Kim sets up here to share how exactly to create a quick account, and then we will pass it over to our panelists. Kim, go ahead and walk them through. So this is the steps Casey took, Kathy took. I know Sam's joining us in a little bit, but show us how to create an account that everyone goes through when they enter Checkology.
I was muted. I am back now. Can I get a thumbs up if you can see my screen, Shaylin? Awesome. So I'm going to go through the registration and getting started process on Checkology, but pretty briefly. So if there are any other questions, please feel free to ask any Help Center questions or any questions in the Q&A today, and I can get those answered for you. Okay, so I'm going to start by going to checkology.org, which is this website here. And when you click on Register Now, you're going to see 3 different options for registration. So you're going to want to click on the Register Now option for educators, and then you'll go to sign in to connect with your school. So once you've found your school, there's a couple more steps, and you can use a single sign-on option or sign in using your email. Once you are in Checkology, this is the dashboard feature, and this is my educator account. So you see I have a couple of classes already, but when you want to start for the first time and create your first class, you can click that Add Class button, and it'll take you to your class settings. So you're going to want to fill in a title for your class, what student level, grade level, and then a subject area. If you have any questions about the class settings, there are these question mark icons that are really helpful to answering them. And the course lock feature is an important feature to decide if you want on and off first off the bat, because it's going to allow students to only move through your Checkology course in sequence, in the order that you assign it. So if you'd like that feature off, which is sometimes preferable if you want to give students choices over which lessons to go into, or maybe a student joins your class late, that's a good feature to toggle on and off as you need to throughout your time on Checkology. And you can come back here and adjust these settings anytime. When you open advanced settings, you're going to see a number of different options that you can explore. There's Help Center articles about all of these different settings. So if there's any that you're particularly curious about, that's a great resource to use. I want to flag the co-teacher option for you all, because I know as librarians and media specialists, a lot of the times you work with subject area teachers. And so establishing a co-teacher might be really important for you. If you open the co-teacher option, you can scroll through anyone who has a Checkology account that has linked to your school. And so you can click on their name and establish them as co-teacher. And in a little bit, I'll show you what the difference is between a co-teacher account and one that you're the main teacher in. The
Kim,
one to, oh yeah, go ahead. Jump in.
And this is, if you could generally speak to it, let's say someone outside of the US wants to register a school, or they're a specialized group and they don't see their school listed. What can they do to move past that?
Great question. I'm going to pop back over to this registration screen, and I'm just going to click open a few different options, pick the country that I'm coming from. And then if you type in any postal code like that, there should be an option here that says can't find a match, request a new school. And you can click on that, fill in the form, and we'll get a notification. And once we go through the approval process, we'll send you an email and get you set up so that your school is in the database and you can select it. Thanks for asking that. It's a great question.
Great, thank you. So that is for anyone outside of the US. It's also for homeschool, special librarian groups, anyone who does not locate their school, correct, Kim? Can just email?
Correct. And another good point here today is that we have these options for school type. In the future, we're looking to have options such as libraries that are separate from schools. So we are going to have that option in the future. But for now, if you are a library that is separate from schools, you can click public school and go through the steps with your library using the public school as your school type. Okay, I'm going to jump back in unless there's any other questions.
Nope, that's good.
Awesome. One-to-many lesson mode is another feature that I want to flag for you all. This is a mode where if you turn it on, the video elements of lessons will be suspended on the student accounts. And so you can screen share from your educator account those video elements. This is a great feature if you want to screen share and facilitate discussions with your students. So that's one that you can, again, toggle on and off, and you can select which lessons you would like to have that on for and which you would like to have that off for. So once I'm all set, I'm going to go ahead and click that Create Class button, and I'll be taken to Add Students. There are two different ways to add students. You can have students self-register or register your students, but the easiest way is to copy this URL and code to your clipboard and then open up whatever method of communication you have with your students. Sorry, there's a bar in my way. There we go. Whatever method of communication you have with your students, maybe a Google Classroom or email, and send that URL to them. And it'll take them directly to the student registration page where they will have options for single sign-on and sign up using email. If they sign up using email, you'll see that your class code is automatically entered here at the top. So they'll link directly to your class without you having to share that code specifically with them and have them retype it. Once you have added your students, you can assign a course by clicking that red Assign Course button. And you'll be served a default Checkology 101 class. The default class has 7 lessons and 4 supplementary activities in it that go over some of the core concepts of news literacy. If you want to know more about the Checkology 101 class, you can preview the course before you assign it. And this will show you some of the course highlights and learning objectives, course description, and it'll show you the lessons and challenges and exercises and missions in that course. So this is a great way to get to know each of the courses that you have available to you, but you don't have to select the Checkology 101. You can also check out some of our other course presets in the Change Course option, or customize and build your own course. I'm going to go ahead today and assign the Checkology 101 default course to my class. And now that it's been assigned, I can go through that course and see all of the different lessons in it and see how my students are going to see it. This is exactly how it appears in a student account. So something like info zones is a great starting point for students because it teaches students how to categorize information into 6 zones: news, opinion, entertainment, advertising, propaganda, or raw information. So we want our students to be able to differentiate between information that they encounter online. And each of our resources, each of our main lessons is hosted by journalists, reporters, and experts in their field. And there's usually a video element sprinkled throughout with some assessment elements. I'm going to skip over to one of those assessments. And assessment elements can be anything from multiple choice to short answer. This one is a drag and drop where students are going to take a look at some pieces of information over on the left and then zone that information. When they're done with lessons, it's a great idea to have challenges and exercises to build up those skills. So you can have an exercise like this one to help students reinforce those skills that they've learned in those main core lessons. Okay, I know there's a lot to show, but I'm going to stop here because we have a wonderful panel today, and I want to make sure that they have plenty of time to discuss how they use Checkology. So I'm going to pass it back to Shaylin.
Great, thank you, Kim, so much. So we definitely wanted to share that because we know a lot of people are new users of Checkology. Kathy joined us. So Kathy, I did make you host for just a moment so you could turn on your camera. And then if you want to send the host back to me, that would be great. We're going to take a moment now for all of our ambassadors to share a little bit about themselves. So I'm going to go back to sharing my screen here and make sure that you definitely share a little bit about yourself. You've met Ebony at the very beginning of the hour, but let's talk now to Casey. Go ahead, Casey, and talk a little bit about yourself.
Let's see, I'm trying to turn my camera back on. My name is Casey Boyd. I am a middle school librarian. I work at Jefferson Academy, which is located in Washington, D.C., Southwest. And I've been working as a school librarian for 23 years. So I'm really excited about uh, this project because mainly I have a background in journalism. That was my first career coming out of college. So a lot of what is taught is really great content, and it's really aligned to what's going on in today's society. So welcome and thanks.
Thank you so much, Casey. I had no clue that your first job was a journalist. That is awesome. Um, I learn something new every time. Kathy, go ahead and share a little bit about yourself because you are as a journalist.
So Casey and I actually have a lot in common. I also started my first job out of college as a reporter, and then a public relations person. And at some point along the way, found out that there was a real demand at that time for librarians. So went back to graduate school and earned my master's in education with that specialization. And also, like Casey, have about 20 something, I've kind of lost count, but 20 something years as a library media specialist. And this year also have transitioned into a more of a tech teaching role. So this has been a real adventure for me. And I'm now teaching 8th grade media literacy to our students. So, yeah, Checkology has been awesome as a resource.
Fantastic. And I saw Sam just snuck in there. I know, Sam, you are pulling double duty like many of our ambassadors today. But go ahead and share a little bit about yourself, and then we'll jump right in with Kim and the questions.
Awesome. Yay. Thank you. I can't start my video, but I'm here. That's what I look like. I'm Sam Solomon. I'm a teacher librarian on the Calvin Simmons campus in Oakland, California. So I have 2 sets of 6th to 8th graders and 1 set of 9th through 12th graders. Before this, I was a English teacher, humanities teacher, depending on the year, for mostly middle school students. And right now I'm actually coming from teaching a research class with high schoolers that's health and bioscience focused.
That is wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us. And Kim, I'm going to pass it to you to start asking questions for our fabulous panel here.
Great, thank you so much. So my first question for everyone, I'm gonna put these in the chat too so that you can reference them, is why did you decide to focus on news literacy?
Well, I can start off. News literacy is a topic that is emphasized and taught in my school district. And while we have some tools that we're using, honestly speaking, I'm kind of looking for something that goes a little deeper to really drive a deeper level conversation and thought amongst my students. I really like the News Literacy Project for this main reason is that their lessons are just really accurate and they're right on point, especially in the times that we live in right now. I can just say this very quickly, having working in DC, and we're just a couple of blocks away from the Capitol building. There were so many lessons that were just directly aligned to help the kids process and understand what was taking place, just a couple of blocks away from their school, and in some cases their homes. So this is why I really appreciate what the team has done to provide great content for kids to understand. I teach a media studies class and I have 7th graders. They're very opinionated. So I have seen a different side of my students as a result of teaching some of the lessons in a good way, because it really does draw them to really dive deeper into some engaging conversations. So that's the main reason why I selected this, and I really stand behind it, is because it really does help our kids.
I definitely want to add on to that thought, right? The idea that like we're training citizens to participate in a democracy is something that I really have always believed about, like my role as an educator. And so news literacy and information literacy is an incredibly important part of that, like as evidenced by every single day of our lives for the last several years. So it feels really like a pressing skill in the short term and like a life skill in the long term.
I love that. And Casey, I taught sixth graders for many years. And so I love the middle school energy. And I think, Sam, you're right on that there's a definite short-term need, but we have big long-term goals. I love that. I'd love to hear about some of the contexts in which you use Checkology. So my next question is, how do you use Checkology? And just thinking about all the different roles that you play as a librarian or media specialist in your community, how does Checkology fit in there?
I feel like it's been, I'm just going to jump in. I feel like it's been just a gold mine during this time, especially. It just seems like, there's times in your life where the stars all align. And so, as I mentioned, I'm suddenly teaching eighth graders media literacy as my course content, which is something I've always wanted to do. So I have to teach it. But then I discovered Checkology and the News Literacy Project, and I have been using it along with all of the current events going on. So I feel like, it's just so easy right now to connect students to the importance of this topic, just using current events. So I've been using the news goggles feature and the SIFT, and being able to have those ready-made slides to share with my students, and then piggybacking on that with a lesson from Checkology, conspiratorial thinking, that was fantastic. That came out just a little bit before the whole Capitol riot situation, so it was just absolutely perfect timing. So those are, yeah, I'm using it really on a weekly basis with all of my eighth grade students.
That's great to hear. I love those classroom ready slides as well. And I'll drop a link to the SIFT in the chat. Oh, we got our Google Docs with resources where it's in there. That's a great one. Thank you for putting that in there. Any other thoughts about how you use it in your specific contexts?
I often drop into classes, like a teacher will ask me to come in and talk about a particular topic, and I can use Checkology lessons as either like an into or like a follow-up. And because it's sort of a little contained context, it's really useful that way too. You don't have to go like sort of from top to bottom. They all work independently as well.
I can speak on the Checkology lesson on misinformation, um, which was pretty interesting when the vaccines were first released. And because I have a lot of African American students that attend my school, there's a lot of concern within the Black community in terms of the trustworthiness of the process as well as the vaccine. And so I used the Checkology lesson on misinformation because I wanted the students to be prepared, because I knew there was going to be an onslaught of misinformation that was going to be delivered out, and how are some of our students and our families going to navigate that information. So I like to, whenever I teach, I like to combine different platforms with one another. So I turned this into a writing activity with Padlet. And I said, okay, we're going to do some writing, and I want to see how you feel about this. We went through the lesson on misinformation, and then, the kids use a third party comic strip to kind of drive that point home, because a lot of them are really into graphic novels. And then from there, they started to write about their opinion based off of the lesson. And I think that was a really valuable lesson. And it was kind of interesting because some kids were pro and some were against the vaccine, and that's their right. But at least they heard the lesson, and they were a little more critical coming to the table. So that was a good lesson.
That's great. I love that you highlighted how misinformation weaved into the context that you're working in. And I was talking with Shaylin and Jordan not too long ago about, I learned the term app smashing. And you all probably already know that term, but okay, so maybe this is not just me. I learned the term app smashing, which is exactly what you were just describing, Casey. It's when you're moving two different platforms together and using them together, like Padlet and Checkology, or when you're using Google Classroom and something else. And I didn't even know that had a term. It just seems really like intuitive to a lot of people, I think. So that's a really great thing to hear, is how you use Checkology with these other platforms out there and how that builds into your day-to-day. So we've gotten into this a little bit already, but my next question is about what are some of the most rewarding aspects of using Checkology with either colleagues or students? And we've heard a little bit about some of those pieces of information, like the classroom ready slides and the SIFT, or the misinformation lesson. Is there anything else that you can highlight as something that's been really helpful and rewarding in your practice?
It's kind of been like a passing the baton thing. I feel like information literacy feels sometimes scary for people to teach. And when they see like, oh, I just pulled this from Checkology. I didn't make this entire thing and interview this journalist, right? They're like, oh, I can do that. I see an entry point for me here. And that is a really nice thing to know when I see somebody in the hallway, RIP, seeing people in the hallway, and them being like, oh, I tried that lesson from Checkology and it was really easy to use. Thanks. That's a really nice, that is very rewarding.
I can go next. You never know when the lessons will become really, they're valuable, but they're going to become just so important and even more invaluable, because after the Capitol Hill riots here, we had a school-wide assembly, or community meeting as we call it. And in having this meeting, the kids during the first day of meetings just talked openly, many of which their parents work at the Capitol building, or they work around the Capitol building, and they're very concerned about what's going on with their parent. The following day, my principal asked me, can you please give a brief presentation to part 2 of this community meeting? And this is a school-wide community meeting where we talked about identifying credible sources. Well, I slid in spotting misinformation, of course, because I had already taught that lesson. And I'm like, this really just meshes up so well with this topic that, so our kids are just prepared. And as I said earlier, they're thrown a lot of information constantly online. How do they navigate it? And they need to be able to spot truths and untruths. And especially during that time, that's exactly what they needed. So it was a nice little 7 to 10 minute presentation, but it was very impactful, and it did help the kids in the long run. So I'm very grateful that I had the opportunity to pre-teach that lesson first before I actually taught it to the entire school virtually.
I would just add, yeah, all of it is so helpful. Again, the timing right now with, I'm teaching Zoom in a room style. Some students are home, some are in front of me. Checkology is perfect. I can either lead it as a whole class activity, which sometimes I do. I'll just start them off with the video and a discussion, and then let the Zoomers, go do their own thing and then check their progress, which I love that feature. Make sure they're they're on task. But yeah, so it lends itself perfectly to the kind of teaching we're having to do right now in the pandemic.
Absolutely. I think some people have asked this year, how can Checkology really be useful in remote and hybrid settings? And now I'm starting to get the question, is it also going to be helpful in in-person settings? And so we've had this history of both, and it seems to be really customizable in that sense of being able to speak to a entirely remote setting, a hybrid setting, and an in-person setting. And Sam, what you were saying about how it's also something that you can integrate really nicely into different classrooms in small ways and in big ways. It can be kind of whatever you need it to be in your curriculum. And that's how we designed it. We wanted it to really be something that you could take ownership over and integrate into your curriculum. So we're really happy to hear that. I wanted to also ask sort of a follow-up question to this one, which is, are there any favorite lessons that you want to give a shout out to, exercises or challenges or missions, or any that the students that you have worked with have really responded to, and you just kind of want to shout that out to the people watching to put it on their radar?
I like the algorithms lesson. That was a real, like, whoa kind of moment for my students when they saw how, their personal information can be shared and how it's distributed across, with data, by different companies. They were really shocked behind that. So that they were quiet in the beginning, and then towards the end they became extreme chatterboxes because the questions just started generating like crazy. So yeah, that was a really good lesson that I enjoyed, the algorithms, because I even learned something from it myself.
That's great. I love that one too. It's, I think, something that we're all still learning constantly about the power of these algorithms and how they can really dictate the information that we see in some ways. And yeah, I think that's one that's very illuminating.
I'm going to just
Kathy.
throw in, the First Amendment lesson was really powerful, and again tied in perfectly with current events right now, what happened at the Capitol. We had some really good classroom discussion around that, and there was a suggestion, it might have been in News Goggles or the SIFT, one of those side publications, that suggested having them survey at least, I think it was 5 to 10 people around them, could have been family members, friends, about how many of them of those 5 or 10 could list the 5 freedoms. And they really had fun with that, saying, oh, my mom couldn't name any of them, it was just, and by the end, they all could name all 5. So like, yeah, I feel like they were proud of that, and that they might have known more than their parents about those 5. So yeah, that was a good one.
Students can be the best teachers, Sam, did you want to jump in?
I was just going to say the arguments and evidence one is one that I've actually just taught the most number of times, probably, because it plugs in really well to the style of writing that they focus on in the middle school where I teach. And so I feel like teachers are always, you're going to use this later. But the arguments and evidence lesson sort of is like, here's how it is already happening to you in the world now, right? And so you can be more of aware of it and kind of put arguments and evidence in context in real life.
Yeah, that one's a great one to go over logical fallacies and really dig into evidence and the arguments that you're making.
Thank you. I'm going to check that one out next.
The next question I had is just about a bit of advice. What advice do you have for librarians or media specialists just getting started with news literacy in general, or Checkology in particular?
I'll jump in. Just to start small, there's a wealth of information there. You don't need to go 100%. Start small, start with one portion of one lesson. Just start with a video, at the beginning, and a class discussion, and then as you start to feel more comfortable, go a little further, a little deeper, add some more to the conversation and to the depth of the lessons that you're doing. But it's really all there. So, how much you want to use is up to you. That's what I'd say.
That's great. You can always start small and then grow your practice in that area. Casey, what were you going to add?
I agree with Kathy that, you need to start small and also recognize your audience. My teachers in my school, in my district, they're overextended when it comes to new applications and programs. And I don't want to burden them or push something on to them that they're not ready for. So I use my students as the advocates. And in teaching these lessons, I know that when they are in their 7th grade social studies class with their teacher, their conversation is maybe a little different than their peers because they have benefited from having some of these lessons. And I know it's got to get that teacher's attention. And I feel like that sometimes when we use students as the advocates for a great program, it has a far-reaching value, for our colleagues in the building. So I'm starting very small, and I'm also using a different plan of attack, I guess you could say, to really get my teachers on board with it, because I think it's a great product, but it's just that I do recognize they're overextended.
Absolutely. I think that there's been a lot of challenges in adopting new technology this past year, and there's a lot of fatigue going around. And so we want to make sure that Checkology is really accessible, but making sure that we're promoting it in ways that really speak to engaging teachers and librarians and media specialists and getting them excited. I know when I was teaching middle school, the stuff that I would get most excited about were the stuff my colleagues had used in their classrooms and had a lot of success with. So that word of mouth is so crucial. And we've already said the students are the best teachers. So hearing it from their students is even more powerful, I think. So that's a great tip. Any other thoughts on bits of advice? Or my next question dovetails a little bit about this, which is just how do you promote it with your colleagues? And have you encountered any sort of challenges, or and how you've overcome those?
Casey, I think your point about just teachers they're overwhelmed with the number of resources and different tech tools, and just being in a distance learning setting is so well taken. I feel like there's almost infinity amazing tools out there. And so I think that can be very overwhelming. And so I feel like the best ways that I've promoted things have been personal. So I used to send out emails to my whole staff, and now I don't do that anymore. I send emails to individual people, or to grade level teams, and really being specific in my offerings of oh, I know that you guys are working on this unit about bias, and here is one Checkology lesson. I can come in and teach it. I can come to your meeting, or you guys can do it on your own. So I think kind of, as librarians, we hand sell books to people. That's a thing that we say, right? I kind of think hand selling things individually to people personally is really helpful right now.
And I think also too, showing by example that it's a great product. We have a very strong Instagram community with our teachers at my school. So what I do is I post excerpts from my lessons where the kids are talking, or excerpts of I might even just take my camera up to the screen, to show the Padlet of what the kids have written, and that also draws some attention from my colleagues, because, we'll have a meeting, or if I come in early for a meeting, they'll say, I saw something that you were doing. Can you tell me a little bit about, and, sometimes that's the bridge in that you need to get the colleague to take a chance and use a new product. And so that's kind of what I've been doing, for the last year.
You all have some great marketing skills already. Like, let's listen to this, like hand selling it to each of these teams and going in a little bit early to start those conversations. I love it. I see that we're just about at the end of our time. Is that right, Shaylin?
You know, we're getting close, and again, I would love. I know people have been joining us, and I've been sharing our Google Doc in the chat with all the contact information. Everyone you see on the screen right now is on Twitter, so you can definitely connect with us there. But I do have one final question, and this will allow anybody who is who's viewing can ask another question as well. Lately, there has been lots of pushback from families of students on thorny subjects. As you can imagine, what's happening in the news, kind of what you were just sharing earlier, Casey, about vaccinations. How do you work with not only colleagues like Kim just asked, but also family members to share those more thornier issues in your classroom? Any advice on that?
I don't know that I have advice to offer, but I would add about that topic just that I feel very fortunate where I'm teaching, and I think that's going to vary a lot. Other people in different pockets of the country might be experiencing more of a challenge in that direction than I am. I've not had any problems, and I'm careful, not to in how I word things, but it's all about the truth, right? That's the essence of what we're teaching is how to find the truth, sort it out. So yeah, I think it was Facing History. I can't remember what organization recently had a really good topic for teachers. It was like a blog post for teachers on how to hold these difficult conversations. And I don't know if there's a way I can share that later because I'm blanking out on what it was, but I know it's out there, and it came out in the last couple of weeks, I'd say. And it was really helpful just to read. But yeah, anyway, I'm just sharing my thoughts out loud on this topic. I feel grateful where I am. I've not had any issues.
Well, I have to watch it very carefully because I have a highly diverse culturally and ethnic as well as religious background of students. So I think it's important that before you teach any lessons, you really have an understanding of the population that you're serving, and that will help guide you in delivering a a lesson that will be respected as well as appreciated, and most importantly, won't offend anyone. So so far the content has been great, but I also have to watch my wording as a library information science practitioner that I don't misstep, because I definitely don't want to offend any of my students or their families. So it is something that you just cannot do fly by night. You have to give it some thought, and you do have to plan.
Sounds like something that's sort of a theme between the two answers that you both gave is knowing your community and really starting with where your community is at and listening. So that seems like a great sort of first step when it comes to those thornier topics, is seeing where your community is at and listening and learning.
I just shared the link to the Facing History article I mentioned.
Thank you so much for joining us. I do want to snag a picture real quick. So if you are listening in and you have a question, definitely put that in the chat or the Q&A while I snag a picture of our group here. Otherwise, make sure that you get the resource document. We'll put Kathy's link in there. And is everyone ready? 1, 2, 3. Perfect. Thank you so much. And I truly appreciate, Ebony, your commitment to work with educators to create a network sharing best practices sharing all of their expertise and their passions to really make an impact with news literacy, not only in the school, but also the community. Casey, I appreciate you. You and I go way back. So I love seeing you on this panel sharing your expertise. Kathy, thank you so much. I was sharing all of your tweets and your Twitter handles. Sam, I even shared your Google site for people to take a peek at, but thank you for taking time out of your day and talking with Checkology, people that are interested, and colleagues, librarians, and media specialists. Ebony, any final words?
I just want to thank each of you, especially our ambassadors, for being here today, for everything that you do when we're not around to really impact student outcomes in your classrooms and in your schools. It does not go unnoticed. And I, for one, am grateful for the ability to co-labor with you all to build out this local footprint in communities. It means the world to me, and I know it is really impacting students on the ground and educators on the ground as we're kind of building out this network. This is all brand new, but we're really, really excited. And Shaylin and Kim and Jordan, who's not here, but I just want to thank you all for amplifying the voices of our ambassadors today and all of the amazing work that they're doing in their schools. Thank you so much for featuring us and for allowing us to share these experiences. And to each of you listening, thank you so much for being here, for participating. And if you have any further questions, you know where to find Kim. You know how to find our ambassadors online. So I just want to thank each of you for being just so responsible and responsive with the information here, and really literally preserving our democracy every single day. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.